Hello, welcome back to the channel, and good morning as well. It's our first video of 2025. So I'm on the Screws estate, just at the base of the North Downs behind me, and it's a very frosty morning and the sun's really bright, so I've made use of getting out while the frost is still on the ground to get this lovely shiny, this lovely morning look around. So we've come here because I'm following the trail of the source of a river that many people have known. It's more famously known for the bridge and the ford crossing it at Ainsford. So I'm talking about the River Darent. And not a lot of people probably realise where the source starts. Well, it starts here in Westerham on the Screws estate, but also mainly in the from the hills of Crocken Hill. So we're going to walk and try and find the source. There's numerous reasons why I wanted to do this. I'm going to do this video in several parts, purely because I want to do from the source to where it comes out on the Thames. Now I've seen a lot of videos of lovely walks in Darent, some nice videos of the Darent, but they mainly sort of start from Otford, Shoreham, and further out Alton Kirby, really, because of the fishing. A lot of fishing lakes there. But it's interesting to know how I felt, where it starts, and actually why the towns along it and villages along it formed, because this river has a very important part with a lot of the local history. And the more I sort of read into it, the more I found. So we'll get up, have a look. But you could just see behind me now is Screws Court, the manor house of the Screws estate which we're on. And right in the distance is the Folly up on the hill, just up from the A25, that John Ward back in the 1700s had built, so he could watch his horses being run. So that's just a small part of the history, but none of this would probably be here if it wasn't for this river. The North Downs sit on the horizon there, and westbound goes as far as far west of Surrey to Farnham and the Hog's Back, and then stretches all the way across the south to Dover. It used to be a prehistoric shoreline. It's made up of all sorts of glacier debris, flint and chalk. But just south of it, where we're standing, is the hillside, the green sand hills. And I did a video, one of my earlier videos, of Dry Hill, which is just to the west of here near Sevenoaks. And the green sands, they spout a lot of springs, but a majority of that would have been under the sea. In actual fact, I started filming this several months back, when I was near the Thames and I realised where the Darent came out. I took the opportunity then. It was a lot warmer, but you'll see that in several videos on from this one, because I want to do a lot of the villages that get missed out and places that get missed out that I know. So I sort of grew up with this river in my life, but never really understood where it came from, where its source was, and took it for granted. And really one day, walking where we are with the dog, our last dog, I sort of realised that what river it was, which in the back of my mind knew, but didn't sort of say, hold on, you know, the source has got to be near here. And then one day I did find it, but it wasn't quite where I thought it was. And then doing more research for this video, I sort of think I was slightly off, and now I sort of think we'll be able to find a little bit more where it should be. Beautiful view of the park here of the Screws estate, but down in the edge of this field, winding its way and cutting through as if to cut this valley out, is the river itself, or the stream that becomes the river. But in my last video we were up in there, Tower Wood, with the abandoned tower, and I mentioned that I'll be doing this, so we're not too far, about a 5-minute walk from that tower. So walking down to the base of it, we'll start and head up and along to find it. So a few people out today. This is the old coach track. We'll end up back on this as we walk down there, but that's the valley, and you can see where the two sort of hills meet at the base and the stream cuts through. But we'll walk up where we can see where it cuts through the field this way, but it's a bit bright because we're going into the morning sun up here, so it'll probably, I don't know how well it'll pick up on the lens. But yeah, that's the hill, Tower Wood, and just over the top there is the tower we was at a few weeks back in the last video, that I'll stick a link to that one in the description below. But if you walk down one of the tracks towards the end in the video, I do mention if you walk down one of those tracks, it brings you to the base here, and then you walk down a path to this very lower point, up that coach track through into here. Absolutely staggering. But I'm glad I got down here early before this all melts away, because over there in where it's still shady, it's really white and thick. But you can see now where it's behind me, where we've come from, it's starting to melt away. But it's the first sort of proper frost I've seen this well, it's the first one of this year, 2025. Now I know through walking these fields quite a lot over the years, in the summer these sort of water reeds flourish, because all down there gets really boggy. But just at the edge there, on this bit, is the stream of the Darent. But it also forks off up this little line, and you can see that on the map that I'll overlay. But that's not regarded as the official source. It's more here. But you can see how the hills roll into it, and how it's almost carved its way down through to form those hills there. The temperature's just dropped, just from that grey line of where the sun meets the shadow. Oh, it's really cold here, and you can see how thick the frost is compared to where we've just come. It's going to be another hour until this heats up. We're just walking past what's known as Hunter's Lodge. I mean, we're at real sort of coming to the Crocken Hill end of the Screws estate, and that there is Hunter's Lodge. It used to be one house, but I think now it does look as though it may have been divided, because there's two doorways to it. Whether it was always like that, but that's it there. And it's such a lovely, well situated house. I mean, to have this as your view. So looking at the map, you can see where the blue dot obviously shows me, the purple one shows the tower. Now there's a house here, and the source, I'd always thought it was in front and more further back, but the source is actually possibly the other side of this house, or the spring comes up in its grounds basically. But we're going to walk around the back of it and just see the lay of the land, because theoretically with the runoff from these steep hills coming from Crockenhill and coming from Tower Wood behind me, that you can see how the land water, the groundwater, would run downhill to form this gully, but also the spring feeding it at the top, which is the main thing of where the Darent gets its name from. And we used to come up here. This is going up the hills towards Crockenhill, and you eventually come out the far side of the Screws estate to it's a pub there, the Royal Oak in Crockenhill itself, and the little school, the little village. But this is quite a steep hill. Well, Navy's on the scent of the source anyway. I'm a lot further up from the that house. We're near the road, as you probably can hear. And there's this isn't fenced off like private land or anything. There's no signs. But I've been following up. Once I got back to the other side of the house, I could see a load of died off perennial sort of water plants. I'm heading towards what still looks like a sort of creek, but we are quite near the road, so I'm going to pause the video and get Navi back on the lead just in case he sees a pheasant or something. But I can't honestly, hand on heart, see anything that's saying keep out. Well, I think this is looking really promising. This is looking really as though it's been once waterlogged. As we walk down, there's a lot of ferns, and it sort of forms a trough, a creek. So we'll have to go around this. We're up from the house, and I'm in the crease of the depression. That's facing uphill. So we are definitely around the right sort of area, but I'm just assuming that it may run underground. You can't see it, but there's like a depression here that goes down as if it was a stream. This is why I did want to do it in winter. So if there was any chance of seeing standing water bubbling, this is the best time of year to find it. But it's definitely thicker brush down here this side. We're going a little bit more, but there's still no evidence of it being somebody's land, but I've got to be respectful. I don't want to be walking across there into their garden if it's not fenced. It is really, really boggy here. There's water, a lot of water here, and there's this depression. You can kind of see it from that fallen tree. And where I just was, it runs down here, along here. It's a shame the camera doesn't really pick it up too well. It runs into this bush here, to this tree. And you can see the trees follow a line carrying on down. And I just heard, yep, there it is. This is it. Here we go, folks. This is the source of the Darent that Navi's just decided to. The Darent, sorry. Navi, come here. That fall into now. But that's it. Trickling down there. This is where it starts. It makes its journey all the way down through the Screws estate, through Westerham to Braisted, Sundridge, Riverhead, Watford, Shoreham, Ainsford, and then out through Darent. Wow, this is really it. Oh wow, look. This is definitely the source here. It runs under this little bridge from one side to the other. And then I would safely say that there is the start to the stream, the river. So from the little pond there, and the spring up from it, it flows down here, and I could actually see it trickling, running. I actually see it flowing downhill through there. Now I'm not going to go any further because although there's no fence line, I can see someone's greenhouse and garden, so I think we're probably getting to a point where we could be on someone's land here. This might not be part open land, but we found it, we found the source. So what we'll do is we'll go around the houses. There's two houses here, lovely houses, and this ground is really wet. There's definitely a spring here, but you're getting the runoff from the hillside at Crocken Hill and up there at Hosey Common, Tower Wood, all feeding this from its early point. But this is it, folks, the start of our journey, and it all goes downhill from here, not literally. It's quite extraordinary to me actually that it obviously comes under there, but it's extraordinary to me that this is the start of a stream and a river that I've known pretty much the whole of my life, and never really found where it started. But yeah, interesting stuff. This is it. The first pool is frozen, but imagine the water's still flowing underneath it, downstream towards the house. Back on the path now. If I sound out of breath, that is really boggy. So there's a lot of water coming up from the ground. That was really hard going. I sunk down, I thought I was going to lose boots at one point. Some of the properties here, these two houses are absolutely stunning. And it's incredible to think, although it's I think 21 miles journey, but how this little spring turns into a little stream and turns into the river, coming down from the back of the house on the path we were just coming from, back the hillside on my left, Crocken Hill. If you were to follow that to its very peak, you come to the road, Hosey Road, and it winds around the bends, then it tips right over an edge again and drops down to Edenbridge. So without a shadow of a doubt, that is the very top, and where the spring must bubble up and come down to this point. And we're walking around the back of these properties and back on the Hunter's Lodge side, and looking down there where we walked up earlier, where it was absolutely white, it's all thawed out now, so it's warming up already. This is still in the shade, so still frosty. I'm really glad I came when I did. I took some of the earlier shots because it was really beautiful then. But these properties are lovely, they're very lucky to live here. So here we are. Yeah, you can just see through their property. I don't want to film too much because it's not fair, invading people's privacy too much. But you can see the river, the stream, two trees in the far distance, and it winds down. You can tell by some of the water plants they've got in their garden, and you can hear it trickling through. This is it. Now I won't say this is an uninterrupted route, but you can we'll walk around this. But this is where we can properly get started. Now we're the right side of that house. Now I actually thought for Hunter's Lodge, I actually thought for a long time the source was sadly in their pond on their lawn or something. They made a feature of it, fair enough. But I always had the inkling, did it run through the other side of the property? But I've always done the walks right up to the far end, Screwy's End, what's known as Screwy's End of the estate, where it then becomes Crocken Hill, down through this hillside into this field, and I've always found the river there. The stream flows through here. It's too overgrown here, but you can still see it. It opens up around the other side of this shore. More reeds. Still quite frozen around here. But yeah, oh, I could hear he's in there. He's in it. He's in the stream. But there's two meanings I can find on it. One says Darent, meaning clear water, and that would make total sense, the fact that it comes from a stream. Another translation which I found, I think, was river lined with oak trees, or oak river. So I'm not too sure whether that refers to the tree line up here on the estate or somewhere further along it. This video is probably going to be a bit longer than most of what I've done before, purely because I want to show the history along this first part. Nothing really, I've not seen anything on any videos of the first part of this river. It's always the end, as I said earlier in the video, that it's the Halton Kirby or somewhere like that, or Ainsford, which is most, I mean, everybody, it's probably the most infamous fords where the Darent runs through Ainsford, through the ford, down past Ainsford Castle to towards Farningham, and it's somewhere we'll be visiting in upcoming videos of this walk. He's in the frozen reeds. Look at that, it's absolutely frozen in there. Oh, is that a deep bit? Come on. Yeah, good boy, good boy. He loves this. He really loves this. This river was, you'll see that this river really did influence commerce of these towns and villages. And you see how industries grew and then disappeared along its banks. But it's just incredible to think where this ends up, this beautiful landscape of the Screwy's estate, and then it goes all the way out to the Thames. But the Thames just feels like a lifetime from here. Where I visited the mouth of it, where it enters the Thames, the Covellers, where it enters the Thames, which is also known as Dartford Creek. The River Cray that comes down from Orpington, the St Mary Cray, joins it just ahead of that. But you can see some of the silt in the sand. I'm going to cross over here because This, as far as I can tell, oh, this is really deep. Whoa. This is very muddy. But this is where, as far as I can tell, the first branch off of the Darent, which some people think is the source, comes off from up there. Now from that earlier video I did, Tower in the Wood, that's up in there, right at the top. But this bit that branches off, although it, in heavy rain I've seen it get a bit of a flow on it, and indeed it has carved the hillside out, carved a little groove coming from that tree line down, and it floods the path down here. There should be a little bit of a trickle, but it always gets really muddy down here. Apologies for the shadows, but the sun's so bright. And I'm going to cross here. I have seen this path completely flooded from that little stream coming down, and you can see there where it kind of joins the stream that we know as the Darent through there. And we're about to cross. I wonder if this is the first. No, I suppose you, although you cross bridges, man-made bridges upstream from Farmer's Field to Farmer's Field, this is the first footpath that crosses it, so this could actually be the first bridge. Well, it's only a tunnel, a little pipe, but the first river crossing of the Darent. It goes off down through there, and it then becomes the real sort of commercial start of how this stream was developed. Now this is the old coach road. We started up the top there. We came down from that hillside. I stopped there, and then we walked into the fields to go and find the source. But this old coach road, which leads back down to the bottom there, I'll overlay an old photograph, but this is what's known, this section of woods further down, it's known as Spring Shore, and it's funny that a dental practice is actually named after it. But we're going to head off down this way and rejoin the river. That's all right. Just getting the puppy ears, you know, on video.
She's 3 now, so she's got a bit go down the side again.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's only just turned 2, but yeah, oh yeah. Another one to join in the games. Bye. Oh, he's just had a bit of a play. Nice to see. Right. So, oh, this frost has really hardened up the ground. It's nice. Must be so muddy and boggy. So, I think this is the second crossing, pedestrian crossing. So we rejoin the Darent and flows into this section and gets really wide. Now, further along, I'll cross without falling in. Some time ago, this is probably the first commercial use of the Darent itself, if you exclude farming and cattle drinking in upstream where we've just come from. But this is a series of ponds that were widened. I'm not sure if this is actually part of what the lower ponds were built for, or this is just a result of the stream naturally coming in and widening it because of the volume water downstream. But these were used as trout ponds for trout fishing on the estate, because we're getting quite close to Screwy's Court again. Now, whether it was used by the Ward family for their own personal use, or used by fishing clubs. Now, we've just had to walk uphill into the base of Tower Wood on this track road from the river, but we're going to head down and we'll rejoin it on the way. So the end of that first big pond, this is the first sort of damming of it. There's a brick structure down there, an old wall, and somebody's built a little bridge there to cross, but there's a overflow pipe that runs through somewhere, and there it is, and then the stream carries on round into the first of the trout ponds. I mean, this may well have been the top trout pond, but I certainly know the next row further on are. Start to descend back down there, but the hills up towards Tower Wood rise up really steep, so they could get a lot of runoff, and then up the other side over the back there is Screwy's Court, just over the hillside there. We walked along that ridge this morning on the first leg of this, but we'll carry on down. It's actually warmer in here, these woods, than it was up by Hunter's Lodge. That was absolutely ice cold. This is really steep. Really steep, just goes up and up and up and up and up. Now, interestingly enough, you'll see on this side, I just crossed back over to the old coach road, where you'll see a load of these on this side of this bank, because this is private land with permissive paths that the estate allow people to walk along and enjoy. But there's a company and a chap we know runs a company, Noble Field Sports, and they do clay shooting here, and you can pay for a day, and it's not like a traditional clay shooting where you stand and the clays are just coming out from sort of fixed points. This is done as a simulated bird day, pheasant drive. So although there's no real birds, these are flung over from all directions, so the idea is, I suppose, you don't know which direction they're coming from, but there's thousands upon thousands of them, and they just break up and dissolve and get crushed down into the path. But you see them scattered about. So many people have said to me, you know, what are they? They're just clays for sport. It's nice to hear the sound of the river. Tiny little waterfall down there. There's families walking. That's the nice thing with the estate. Scrooge Park is opened up to allow people to enjoy it. It's absolutely staggering. That's why I felt it was important to, although further on I'll go into the details and the history that I've discovered, and there's lots of it, lots and lots and lots of it. So here we are. This is what I would probably say is the first part of the commercial side. It could still be the upper lagoon or something from the damming, but the first of the trout ponds that we used. So these sleepers were a series that continued on right up the hill, and I've been told they were used for horse trials, no doubt by the family of the estate, the Ward family. Our first little spaniel, Indy, Indiana, that's exactly where he'd like to jump in there, and at the base somewhere there. And there was always a duck that lived over there, and Indy knew he was there, saw him once, and would insist on chasing him round the pond, never catching him. And the duck, I think, just taunted him. It became a bit of a game between the pair of them, and I'm sure we've got videos, old footage if I can find it, I'd love to insert it, of Indy puffing, sounded like a steam paddler going around here chasing the duck. And the duck, as soon as it got to one end, would just swim off down the other, and Indy'd have to turn and chase after. So this is the second dam forming this pond. And again, I'm not too sure whether this was used as part of the trouting. But I know further downstream those ponds definitely were. Up from the stream, back up the hill there, from walking before, there's an old disused pheasant pen, when on this side of the estate they used to do the game shooting, the pheasant shooting. And it's not too far from the tower at Towerwood, but there was an old pheasant pen up there, but it's all derelict now, overgrown. It's not really worth going and finding, but it's just another bit of evidence of showing what the estate's been used for over the years. Perhaps take a little walk back down to the stream here. Now I keep calling it stream, but I think it's probably fair now to start calling it the River Darent. As on the maps, it's all listed as that, a river, and not a stream or a brook or a creek. The Darent there, going underneath the third bridge, although I know this is, although pedestrian, is the cattle bridge, linking another part of the estate where cattle graze. Even to this day, still have cattle up there, and heading off down to this point into the next part of the estate, the other fields. Now, part of this structure here has always had me a bit sort of confused, whether it's a sluice or to slow the water down, because it does drop off quite steeply here now through the estate. You see the river coming through there, but there were a series of mills. There were 3 on the Squeries estate, and there was one that was the smaller. Now, I have a photo that I'll insert, which I believe may have been taken from somewhere down in there. We can't get through there because of barbed wire fence, because the cattle sometimes go through there, but that's all fenced off. But I imagine before all this was here, and this was more clearer, the view looks like it's down there somewhere, facing up, back at this. And I'll overlay that, but I can't be certain. But it's the smallest of the little mills, possibly even a pump. So I've crossed over back because we can't walk down on the side we're on, but we're still heading downstream. You can tell by the sun behind me, I just can't lose my shadow here. But it was worth it to get some of that early shots this morning. But so you can tell we're heading towards the North Downs, so we're heading north. But the river is still down there in that gorge, going on to the next of the series of trout ponds. Now we've just strayed off the path, because straight from the source this river becomes, we start to see it used for commercial uses, be it trout ponds, be it for agriculture. But soon down from the trout ponds is this old structure in the hillside. Now I don't know whether this is a part of the mills. It dates, looking at the brickwork, that the brickwork would be around that same sort of era, the 1700s, 1800s. Now I've been down here before and in there we could hear something electrical buzzing. So I assume it could be a pump feeding water to cattle, pumping it right up the top. Oh, there we go. There we go. So I imagine it's a pumping house of some sort. And the only thing I can think of is it's to get water up to the farmland up the top. But whether that was its original use, whether it was part of the mills to help control the flow, to stop the lower mill further down that we'll be coming to shortly, getting swamped and overrun when there was heavy rainfall. Further down from that structure we come back to the river, and I'll go this way, but this is what we know as the trout ponds proper, that hidden away from the main path. And the child's been down here, but it actually gets really deep really quickly here. So, but even though we've had a lot of rainfall, still remarkably. Yeah, I'm not going to venture too deeply in. But I can see the bottom. But there's a view of the trout ponds. So a use. Navi, come here, because he's going to go for a swim with his raincoat on, which defeats the purpose of his raincoat if it's soaking wet. Come here. I had it on because it was freezing this morning. But that's the trout ponds. So the Darent running through, absolutely beautiful. Wait. Brilliant. Genius.